Today on the Midweek Move, I'm going to be talking with my friend Mike here from the Philippines. Well, not really, but he's a missionary there, and he has a really cool story. Hello, welcome to the Midweek Move, the podcast extension of The Healing Place, where we kind of examine the scriptures line by line, verse by verse, and we talk about it, what it means to us in context, and the practical application. And we've been through a lot of really interesting shifts over the last several weeks with the Midweek Move. We've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people, and today I'm really excited because I'm talking with Mike Bailey, who is a missionary to the Philippines. And I'm really excited to have you here on the show, Mike. For those of you who don't know, our lead pastor's daughter, Lizzie, served with you for how long was she in the Philippines with you, Mike?
About a year.
About a year. Mm-hmm. And she was an intern, and she speaks very highly about you and your ministry over there called Hope for All Children. And I'm going to say this on the front end. You have a very great... You were born for this type of ministry you guys do there. When you minister, when you preach, you bring out this gentle authority that children need. And it's really a reflection of the heart of the Lord. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate everything you pour into the kids over there in the Philippines and into Liz. I had the opportunity to be Lizzie's kids pastor, her youth pastor. I'm a friend. I'm very proud of her. And I'm thankful to you for everything you've done. So, but before we get into our main topic, tell us about yourself. How did you get to the Philippines? What is it you guys do there in the Philippines and all that good stuff?
Okay. Most recently we went to the Philippines almost 20 years ago, mm-hmm. and we went with 4 other families. And during that first 5 years, we ministered a lot to the impoverished population. We actually ministered in a garbage dump where 1,500 plus people lived, and basically spent 5 to 6 years just ministering in that place. Right. We had a school of ministry, and we traveled as well, but we really focused on the work that was taking place among that community. And so the Lord had spoken to my wife and I to pull away from the Philippines, and we did. And we spent a couple years in the States and just really sought the Lord for the next step in life and ministry. And it was during that time that the Lord spoke to us, just really revealed his heart for the orphan. It's something that we had not really engaged in up to that point.
Right.
And so he really spoke to us about Hope for All Children and about the just really engaging in a place that we already had relationships with, and that being the Philippines. And so we went back there and began the work of Hope for All Children.
Awesome. Now, what is Hope for All Children? Is that just a sidewalk Sunday school type of thing, or is it something more? I know it's something more. I'm giving you the opportunity to tell people, what exactly is it? What are you guys doing out there with these kids?
Okay. There are 2 main areas of ministry that's very active and that we've been engaged in for several years now. One of those is taking in children who have been orphaned.
Right.
And the other area of ministry is we take in girls who have been rescued from trafficking situations. And so when we bring them in, when we bring in small children who have been orphaned, we work with the government and we try to, find the best solution for that individual child, whether it's restoration with an extended family member or whether it's being available for adoption, a possible adoption situation. Or whether it's staying right there with us at Hope for All Children,
right,
and allowing us to continue to care and raise them through their childhood years.
That's awesome. I had the opportunity to go and spend a few days with you guys there in the Philippines, and it's really quite amazing. We took a boat from Davao to the island where you guys are at, and traveling through the jungle, and all of a sudden it's like this oasis on the mountain is what you guys have, and it's this beautiful facility you guys have created that really is. It's stepping into the campus. Like, you can feel God's presence there, and just the change that takes place there is amazing. And I'm really excited about speaking to people right now because you are on the back end of a major shift that took place on the campus there. You guys were planning to come back stateside, and then a world event happened, COVID. Which surely nobody listening to this podcast has ever heard of.
Right.
But you had to make a quick shift in your ministry. What was those first few weeks like for you dealing with COVID and having to make that shift?
Okay. As everyone listening, it really shook us, because it was something that we did not expect, something that we didn't plan for, and that we did not foresee. And so, when it took place and we began to see all the changes that rapidly took place in the Philippines, in a nation that we did not expect rapid change to take place.
Right.
It's a third world country, and they don't have the online capabilities of America and other, westernized countries. However, from the time that the country began to respond to the pandemic, within a month they had tracking ability, within the country.
That's crazy.
And so they started issuing, identification cards, QR codes, and you couldn't travel, you couldn't move around, without permission, without being able to verify the business that you needed to take care of in this place or that place. And so even traveling from the island to the city that's next to the island, we for weeks we were unable to go because it just wasn't permitted.
Right.
And so, it was difficult and it was strange, but during those just initial moments and even weeks, we really sought the Lord. As you mentioned, we were scheduled to leave and wasn't supposed to be in the Philippines during that time, but we really felt the Lord leading us to stay. And we just began to seek the Lord as to, Lord, what steps are we to take from this point forward?
Right. So as you guys made those steps, what were those steps look like? How did you guys maintain the ministry in the midst of this literally ever-changing moment that was taking place?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, the property that we have, Hope for All Children, it's in the middle of an island that's about 17 miles wide and 5 miles, in the middle. But we had a property and we had all the ability to, to minister to those that God has entrusted to us, our children, those that labor with us, the young families that are a part of Hope for All Children there. And so we just began to intensely pour into the lives of those that the Lord entrusted to us. It actually, the situation with COVID, it removed all the other distractions.
Oh, yeah.
And it allowed us to really focus on what the Lord was setting before us. So we began a real intense just season of discipleship that turned out to be supernaturally amazing.
That's awesome. What would that discipleship look like?
Okay, we focused on three main areas, and that was just really ingraining the Word in our hearts and just establishing a place where the Word would just be a constant meditation. And so we began to memorize Scripture from the youngest of our children, to the eldest, and the whole community, really. We just really began to dive into this place of memorization, meditation of the Word, and we also just really began to have intentional intercessory meetings. So we gathered together more often to pray and intercede, and again, from the youngest of our children to the eldest, we're all a part of these meetings.
Right.
And then we, in addition to that, we, up to the point of COVID, we were a part of other fellowships, and we were a part of actually a church in the city.
Right.
But after COVID, that church actually had to close.
Oh, wow.
And we were, not planning to, but we were kind of forced to start our own, meetings together and services. And so on Sundays, we would gather together and just, we would pray, intercede, we'd worship the Lord. And that was the other area, is just really worshiping the Lord. And so out of those three places, the Lord just really began to establish the hearts of those in Hope for All Children like we had not seen in all the years present.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so awesome. All right, so you're in the midst of all this stuff. You're leading this ministry. At the same time, you're almost starting like almost a home church at the same time. And I'm reminded of Paul. Paul, he was basically imprisoned for several years in one space, but he had to run a ministry. But he also had to maintain himself, his spiritual man as Paul. You yourself, you're running a ministry. You're a husband. You're a father. In fact, your son's here in the studio with us as we're recording this. How did you maintain yourself as Mike? Not Mike the pastor, not Mike the missionary, the guy who runs the orphanage, but Mike, how do you maintain yourself in the middle of this very big shift that's taking place?
Yeah, for me personally, and as well as my family, we just begin to draw more near to the Lord. And just, again, COVID, in so many ways, it caused our lives to become uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And there were so many things that had to change that we didn't foresee changing. But some of the wonderful things that came out of that season was that it really cut off things that could have possibly hindered us from pressing into a deeper place of intimacy. And so instead of, going to and from the property, we were there, at Hope for All Children. And so Dallas, we just had more time.
Right.
We had more time to read. We had more time to pray. We had more time to give, which is all important, in your relationship with the Lord. It's not just being filled up, but it's also having that avenue where you can give what you've received.
That's so good. So it was taking advantage of what was been given to you.
Yeah.
That's really important. That's awesome. So let me ask you this, because COVID's happened and we're on the back end of it, and now we're kind of moving forward, but everyone that's listening, they go through their own big shifts. There are seasons in our lives, no matter what's taking place. We just have to, God's going to throw things at us. Not that he's trying to, mess us up, but just life. And he gives us opportunities to adjust. What advice would you give to anybody who's listening right now that's like, I'm in the middle of a big shift. My ministry is changing. I feel like God told me something, and now it's shifting this direction. What's your advice for those people to be able to stay focused, but also maintain their spirit man as they walk this out?
Yeah. My advice today is, Dallas, is just really don't allow the pressures of this moment, in whatever moment somebody may be in, to dictate their decision, or to compel them to go in a direction that they don't really have peace with, or that they're not really sure, that the Lord's ordaining their steps in that direction or this direction.
Right.
But really take this moment and just pull away from all those pressures, all that place of feeling, responsibility to make this decision or that decision or do this or do that. And just seek the Lord. Just draw near to him. Just draw near to the Lord. Just find that place. Allow that intimate place with the Lord to be refreshed. Discover it anew.
Right.
And if you've not really had a place of intimacy with the Lord, just know that he is beckoning us. He's calling us to that place. That's the place that he longs for us to abide in.
Right.
Is that place of really just living in his presence, that place of intimacy with him.
So let me ask you this, because we have these words, draw close to the Lord, lean into him, these things. What does that actually mean in a practical manner? Like if somebody was to go, hey, Mike, give me a step-by-step, what am I actually doing when I'm drawing near to the Lord? What does that look like in the life of a believer?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dallas. And a lot of times we throw out these terms and expect everyone to, just kind of go along with it and know what we're talking about. But, intimacy with the Lord looks a lot like intimacy in our relationships one with another. Without time being spent with someone, you're not really going to know them.
Exactly.
You can communicate with somebody via text or via, call or online, but, until you are with them face to face, until you can touch, until you can experience different aspects of communication with that individual, your intimacy with them is going to be very limited.
Absolutely.
And so the more time that we spend one with another in a sincere way, obviously it deepens our love, it deepens our affection, it deepens our place of sincerity,
right?
In our relationship. And the same is true with the Lord. And the way that we do that is by praying. The way that we do that is by spending time in the Word. The way that we do that is by worshiping. The way that we do that is by giving what we've received, having our mind stayed on the Lord. So good,
so good. I want to encourage those of you guys who are listening right now, really take stock of what Mike just said. But previously, when I asked you about how you maintain your spirit man, you really just took advantage of what God had already given you. Sometimes the things are thrown at us doesn't mean that we have extra time, but it means we need to cherish what we have already and take advantage of it. It's so easy for us to get caught up with having to take care of everything else and not take care of ourselves.
Yeah, that's good.
I think I was having a conversation with Scott one day, and we're talking about one of the most dangerous things that takes place in any ministry is when the pastor gets to the point where he's in the Word so he can prepare to give it away rather than for himself.
Yeah.
Not taking advantage of the time for himself.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I encourage those of you who are listening, maybe you've been stuck in a spot. Maybe you found yourself in a place where that's where you're at and you've been just go, and God's shifting. You're just trying to keep up. Pause.
Yeah.
And take advantage of what God's given you for, even if it's just a few minutes there in the day, and lean into them these ways that Mike just gave you. Pray, read the Bible, worship. If it's on the way to work, because you're working 3 jobs and doing ministry, crank up the radio and just worship on the highway.
Yeah.
We want to encourage you guys to reach out to us, mediahub@thspsreport.com, and let us know how we can pray with you, how we can encourage you. How has Mike's words encouraged you? Mike, how can people get hold of you? How can they partner with, not Orphans Hands, that's another group, but Hope for All Children? How can they even serve Hope for All Children?
Okay. We have a Facebook page, Hope for All Children. We also have a website, hopeforallchildren.org. And these are ways that people can stay connected, and see the updates for the ministry, et cetera.
Right.
And it's also a point of prayer, you know, that you can really be a part in that place of prayer. And obviously people that partner with us in a financial way, obviously that enables us to do what we do in the Philippines. But we really appreciate people praying. We appreciate the financial partnership, but we also appreciate people coming to labor with us. In fact, you know, if someone asked me, Mike, if I could give, you know, such and such amount of money, or if I could take a trip, which would you rather me do? Mm-hmm. Hands down, I would rather you come.
Right.
Because I'd rather you see, you know, I'd rather you experience what it is that the Lord's doing in the Philippines. And and from that point forward, you're really connected to, you know, to the heart of the Father with what He's doing in the Philippines. And so just that relational aspect means a whole lot more to me, you know, and people just really desiring to be a part of something that the Lord's doing.
Yeah.
You know, He always leads us in that place of relationship.
Totally. So good. Well, guys, I want to encourage you guys, go check that out. There'll be links in the descriptions down below for you guys to be able to connect with them through their website and through their Facebook page. And really be prayerful. I want to encourage those of you who are listening, be prayerful about partnering with Mike in the ministry that his family and him are walking through together. And hey, again, thank you for listening to this week's episode of Midweek Move. I hope it's encouraged you, challenged you. Check out our Facebook page, Midweek Move, on Real Simple to find us. And hey, until next time, have a great week.